Students, so in today's class I will be discussing the last method of primary data collection, which is also called schedules. Now you might confuse schedules with a questionnaire, but listen carefully what a schedule is, and then I will tell the differences between a schedule and a questionnaire. Okay, now just like the questionnaire, the schedule is a set of questions. Okay, so in schedules also you will create a set of questions, and these questions will be asked to the respondents. Okay, now these schedule is used by an interviewer or an observer to either interview the respondents or the observer. So these are a set of questions which are used to collect the data. Okay, but they are not given directly to the respondents. Rather, these are the set of questions which are asked by the interviewer and is recorded by the interviewer itself. But in case of questionnaire, the questionnaire are given to the respondents and the answers are written down by the respondent itself. So the major difference between a schedule and a questionnaire is that in case of a questionnaire, it is sent to the respondent and the respondent will fill it. But schedule, on the other hand, is a set of questions which are used by the respondents in an interview to collect data, and these questions are filled by the interviewer or the observer. Now in case of schedules, the order of question, the language of the question, and the arrangement of the various parts does not change. Okay, so these will remain fixed, but while asking the question, the interviewer can explain what these questions are exactly asking, because the interviewer himself is present there to ask the question and fill the answers. Okay, so what happens is, even though the order, language and arrangement is fixed, but the questions can be explained to the respondent in case he is facing any difficulty. Okay, now in this you can ask both open-ended questions or closed-ended questions depending upon your choice. Okay, now let's see what are the various types of schedules that can be used. Now the first is a village or a community schedule. So when you have to collect data on the entire population, okay, for example you want to do a census, then you can use a village or community schedule. The second type of schedule is called a family or a household schedule. Now what you can do in this is, you will have full demographic details. What are demographic details? Details about age, sex, status of individuals, education, family relations, etc. And the third type of schedules are called opinion or attitude schedules. In this, what you can do, you can see the views of the population. Okay, now see, the special features of a schedule is that firstly it is presented by the interviewer. Okay, so the interviewer will ask the questions and the answers will be noted down by the interviewer itself. Also remember that it is a formal document which is used for data collection. It may not be attractive because you don't have to present it to the respondent, only the interviewer has to use this. Okay, now why do we use a schedule during an interview? Okay, so there are three purposes of a schedule. The first purpose is that it gives a tool for data collection. So what happens is, for observation you can do it in an objective manner and not in a vague manner. Similar set of questions you can ask to everyone, similar type of language can be used, so it provides objectivity. Second, it acts as a memory tool for the interviewer. Why? Because see, the interviewer it will help the interviewer to keep in mind what are the various questions or things to be asked or observed. Okay. Third is, if you have collected the data in form of schedules, then the work of tabulation and analysis becomes easy because you have already stored the data in a formal schedule way. Okay. Now, a very important term in case of schedules is enumerators. Okay, this topic is very important, students. Now, an enumerator is, first I'll tell you, a person. Okay, an enumerator is the person who is hired by the, so he is hired by the researcher. For what? He is hired by the researcher to collect data on behalf of the researcher. Okay. So whenever data has to be collected through schedules, enumerator will be appointed, and this person is the one, he will meet the respondents and fill the schedules. Okay. So in case of an schedule, enumerator is the most important person because he is responsible for reaching out to the respondent, explaining the scope and objective of the inquiry to the respondent, and recording the answers and compiling him. So he is very important because the success of data collection will depend upon the enumerator itself. Okay, so enumerator will be responsible for proper data collection. His sincerity and efficiency is very important. Now, because he is the front face, so he should be soft spoken. Okay, he should be good mannered. Okay, and he should be very much trained so that he is able to carry out the functions in a proper way. Okay. Excuse me. Now let's see what are the advantages of using a schedule. Now, see, if you are sending a questionnaire to an illiterate person, then he might not be able to respond because he is not able to read the questions. So if the respondent population is illiterate, then then using schedules is the best method. Okay, because the interviewer can call out the questions to the respondent and can note it down. Okay, also the issue of non-response is resolved. Why? Because the enumerator himself is present at the place to collect the information. Okay. Third, the data that you get is more reliable because it is himself collected by the enumerator and the details are filled by the enumerator. Now, let's see what are the disadvantages of this method. See, the first disadvantage is that it is heavily dependent on the enumerator. Okay, so if the enumerator is not efficient or if it is not unbiased, then the entire process is of waste. Second thing is that it is very expensive because additionally you will have to hire an enumerator and pay him a fees. The third disadvantage is it is very time consuming because the enumerator has to go to one person and other person and collect the data. Okay, now another disadvantage is sometimes people do not respond to certain questions irrespective of the fact that the enumerator is present or not. Suppose there is a personal question, then they might not be happy or they might not be willing to answer to such questions. Okay, so till now in schedules, remember that it is a set of questions, or you can call it a tool, which helps the interviewer or the observer to collect data. It is similar to questionnaire as it has questions, but the difference is this aids in the process of interview and observation, and the data and the questions in the schedules are asked by the enumerator to the respondent directly, and it is filled by the enumerator. So the enumerator is of great importance in case of schedules because he is responsible for collecting data, and he will meet the respondents, ask the questions and fill the answers. Okay, now schedule is solving three purposes. First, it is helping to provide a objective way of data collection. Secondly, it acts as a memory tool for the interviewer and the observer. And thirdly, it helps in data analysis and interpretation because it provides a formal way of data organization. Okay, now let's see in a formal way what is the difference between a questionnaire and a schedule, because many a times we will get confused in both these things as both have questions that are being asked. Okay, see, now all of you know that in questionnaire you have certain written questions and you will send it to the respondent, okay, directly, and this respondent will fill the answers and send it back to you. Now this is also a set of questions or data which has to be filled by the enumerator. Okay, he will be asking question from the schedule and he will be filling it. Now this is filled by the respondents and the schedules are filled in by the enumerators. Okay, now what about the response rate? In questionnaire, the response rate will generally be low because it is dependent on the respondent to reply or not. Here the response rate will be correspondingly high. Now when I talk about coverage, in case of questionnaire you can have a large coverage because it is less time taking and less expensive, but here the coverage will be relatively low. Coming to cost, a questionnaire is more economical as compared to schedule, while a schedule is a little expensive. Okay, now in case of a questionnaire, the respondent's identity may or may not be known. Okay, so may or may not be known because see, we have a space for for the name of the respondents, but it is not mandatory for the interviewer to fill for the respondent to fill him. He may also fill a wrong name, we do not know. But in case of a schedule, the identity of the respondent is known. Okay, now in this the success relies on the quality of the questionnaire only. Okay, but in case of schedule, the success depends upon the enumerator, his accuracy, his honesty and his competence. Now a questionnaire can be used only on literate people and cannot be used on illiterate people, but a schedule can be used both in case of a literate and an illiterate population. Okay, so with this we are over with the 4 methods of primary data collection. That is, first is interview, second is observation, third is questionnaire, and the fourth is schedules. Now in the next class onwards we will move to the various sources of secondary data, and with that our unit 3 will be over. Okay, thank you.